Hey there, drone fans. Rick here again from Drone Valley. In today's clip, I'd like to discuss the details that surfaced over the weekend regarding the hotly anticipated DJI Mavic 2. Now, I first saw this information on a YouTube channel called Droning On, and I want to make sure he gets full credit for not only uncovering the information, but taking the time to put together a really nice clip to let the rest of us know about it, so we could all sit back and salivate over how cool these drones are going to be. Now, I've got a link below where you can go visit his YouTube channel, and I suggest you do that because that channel does a real good job of covering the drone industry in general, tips and tricks on flying techniques to get better footage. And I'm a huge fan of any channel that takes time out of their day to put together a clip that'll help me become a better flyer and really enhance the flying experience for the community. So hit the link, go over there, give them a couple of thumbs up, drop a couple of comments, and show them that you really care about channels that are giving back to the community. All right, so how did this information get out? That's the first thing I want to talk about. Well, it turns out that in Europe, which is where that channel exists and where that person lives, there's a large big box electronics retailer called Argos. Now in the States we have Fry Electronics, we have B&H, we have Best Buy, a lot of different companies do that. But for some reason in the UK, in that particular case with that store, they publish a catalog. Now, I didn't know catalogs were still being published. I know a lot of the big companies that, Sears and those guys used to send catalogs to the house, but with electronics, it's tricky because catalogs take a long time to print. You give the information to the publisher maybe a month or two before they actually print the catalog. Then it's got to get shipped to you. You got to distribute it in the store. And technology changes so fast that specifications can come and go, even products can come and go by the time the catalog hits. And that's exactly what happened here. So it seems like what happened was DJI gave the information to Argos and said, here are the two new drones we're going to release on the 18th event. Remember that 18th event that was supposed to happen? That was postponed. And Argos took that information, and good on them. They gave it to their publisher. The printer took it. He published the catalog. He shipped it to the Argos stores. I'm laughing because they brought it out in the store. They handed them out to customers. And the guys from Droning On were smart enough to go to the store, flip right to the drone page, and lo and behold, there were two new Mavic 2s. Now, I don't know if I blame Argos, because if I'm spending $10,000, maybe even $100,000 to put a catalog out, and everything in there is exactly correct except this one item, do I not distribute the catalog? Do I have my employees rip that page out? Like, it's a tough situation because I know DJI doesn't want the information out, but Argos spent a lot of money putting the catalog together, so I don't know, they're kind of both at fault and both not at fault in this circumstance. But be that as it may, the information's out there. So in that catalog, it showed two new models of DJI's Mavic called the Mavic 2. One of them was called Mavic 2 Zoom. The other one was called Mavic 2 Pro, which is kind of weird because it used to be Mavic Pro, now it's Mavic 2 Pro. But anyway, the difference between them is that the first one, the Zoom, has an optical zoom of 2x on it, which is pretty cool. And I've raved about the Anafi's 3x digital zoom, which is something I didn't think I'd like, but I love it. So having a 2x optical zoom on a quad is a pretty cool feature. That's really going to enhance my photography abilities when I have the thing up in the air. But the one that interests me even more is the Mavic 2 Pro, which has a 1-inch sensor. And not just anybody's 1-inch sensor, a Hasselblad camera, which is sort of the state of the art as far as cameras go for professionals. So having a foldable drone this size with a 1-inch sensor on it is a deal killer. It's going to own the market. And I've made this comment several times in the last year that the first company that builds a foldable drone that has any kind of distance out of it with a 1-inch sensor is going to own this market for the next 24 months. And if you're a fan of the channel, you know that I came down pretty hard on the Autel Evo product when it was released because I went to Vegas, I went to the CES show, spent an hour with them in their booth. They showed me three models of the Evo, one with a 1/2.3 sensor, one with a 1-inch sensor, one with a 360-degree sensor, and they released the one with the 1/2.3 sensor. And I said to them and in the clip, what are you doing? That sensor's 2 years old. Everybody's got a 1/2.3 sensor. If you want to make a splash in this industry, don't just release one that's just as good as somebody else's, release one that's a little bit ahead of it. If they came out with the 1-inch sensor version of that quad, they could have owned the market for the last 6 months, and they might have taken early mover advantage away from DJI's, razzmatazz when this thing hits the street. But lo and behold, they didn't. So with them coming out with this Mavic 2 Pro with a 1-inch Hasselblad sensor on it, there's nobody out there that competes with this. And I know that's a bold statement to say that, but Autel already released theirs. Parrot released the Anafi, which is a great quad. Both of those are great quads, but they're not going to be a foldable drone with a 1-inch sensor. So that's pretty incredible. Some of the other specifications that were listed in the ad, and again, I'm assuming these are going to apply to both airframes, but again, until they come out, we're not going to know. I promise you, when they come out, trust me, I'll have one of each. I'll have them on the channel. I'll tear them apart. I'll do all the tricks and investigations that I do with the quads that I use. But for now, we're just going on whatever specs were printed in that catalog. A little longer flight time, 31 minutes. If you're flying the Mavic Pro Platinum, you get 30 minutes out of that, so it's a slight increase over that. We'll see if that actually bears out in real world use. You've got 1080p streaming on it, which is great. I'm not sure if it's going to be based on OcuSync or Lightbridge. My bet would be OcuSync. It's got an 8-kilometer distance. Now that is an increase, and I kind of think that that's a little bit of a poke in the eye to the Autel Evo, because Autel came out with their quad, and lo and behold, that one did exactly the same distance as the Mavic Pro. So what DJI said is, okay, you can go, 4.3 miles. We'll go 5 miles on the new one. So it is kind of cool on paper. To me, it doesn't matter that much because we have visual line of sight requirements in the States, so I can't fly beyond where I can see the thing. As I get older, that distance gets closer. So being able to fly 5 miles is pretty cool if I could do it, but I can't. So until they release that V line of sight requirement, the FAA releases that, then I can use this new quad and fly it to my heart's content out to 5 miles. So kind of a cool spec, but not really a big deal for me. A couple other things that are on paper that are interesting. The omnidirectional obstacle avoidance. Now, they weren't specific on what they meant by that. Omnidirectional can mean a lot of different things. Does that mean front, back, sides, top, bottom? I don't know. We'll see when the thing comes out. But the fact that they've enhanced that obstacle avoidance is going to be important to a lot of people. Now, I've said before, it doesn't mean that much to me because when I fly my quad, I find that the obstacle avoidance for me, particularly when I'm in close quarters, is more of an annoyance than anything because I have to get close to a tree or close to a side of a building to get that perfect shot, and it's going to start screaming at me because it thinks I'm going to crash into the side of the building. So I don't use it that much, and I think having it, if it's 360, having it 360 might be a bigger burden for me. So I'm going to probably turn it off. So if you like that kind of thing, it's going to be in there. It may be an enhancement that you care an awful lot about, but trust me, if you fly for a long period of time, you're going to get better at it, and you're not going to need the obstacle avoidance. So it's cool that it's there. It's an industry first if it's a 360 bubble around it, but for me, again, that's a paper spec that doesn't mean a lot. The next two really are important to me. So the Follow Me or Active Track 2.0 means they've improved that active track, and that's a challenge for most companies because they've got a quad that has a certain amount of processing power in it. When you turn on active track, you've got to pick an object to follow and then stay with that object. And the challenge is that your profile facing that thing when you first turn it on is different if you turn slightly sideways or if you go behind a tree and pop back out again. So I'm assuming that that means they've improved the active track to the point where it locks on you and kind of understands what you look like if you turn sideways or pop behind a tree and pop back out. So we'll have to see how that plays, but I like the fact that they're focusing on that because a lot of the folks that fly these things want to have active track to watch them on a skateboard or on a surfboard or on a bicycle follow them. So that's great news. The really big deal for me is the A-Pass. Now, the A-Pass is something introduced with the Mavic Air, and that is an incredible feature. If you've never seen it in use, there's a lot of clips out there. I actually did one myself. But what A-Pass does is it draws a 3D map of things in front of it, and it not only looks for things that are there, but it looks for things that are moving. So it's not drawing a static map where it's saying, okay, there's 24 trees in front of me. Let me find a path through those trees as Rick runs through those trees. It's saying, I can see the 24 trees, but if something else moves into that spectrum of visual line of sight, it's going to adjust for that and make a different path out of it. So it's an incredibly complex technology that's very advanced. It's artificial intelligence enhanced inside the quad where it's got algorithms that are running to sort of make those adjustments on the fly as it's flying at speed through a very heavily wooded forest or an area where there's a lot of people. It'll avoid those dangers out there, for lack of a better term. So those two are really important to me, but I don't want to get lost in the specs too much. What you have to realize here with DJI, I've said this before, this is an incredibly competitive market, and this has been a wildly busy summer for drones being released. We've had the Parrot and Afi come out. We had the Autel Evo, which was supposed to come out and then came out a little bit later. There's talk of a drone coming from PowerVision. I can tell you there's an X Dynamics drone coming, which looks like a fantastic product with a removable camera. I hope to have my hands on that in the next couple of weeks to do some clips. There's rumors that Unique's working on a drone. There's a couple of other companies that are less known names that are coming out with drones. So if you're in the market to buy one, this is a confusing summer because there's so many different drones and different price points with feature sets. If you're looking for a prosumer drone, pretty much almost a professional level drone, that Mavic Pro 2 is going to be hard to beat because all the drones I own, this Mavic Pro is the one that I fly more often than any of them. I love this drone, and the only thing that I'm looking for in this drone that I don't have today is a larger sensor. The only reason I fly the Phantoms in my Inspire is Inspire 2 because I need that larger sensor. Because some of the places I'm flying, I really want to capture the best possible image from up in the sky, and that 1-inch sensor really does it for me. The minute you put a 1-inch sensor on a foldable drone, because of the portability of this, that's all I'll ever fly. So at that point, I may sell all my other drones and just get that Mavic Pro 2, and I'm sure that worries DJI a little bit. And I mentioned before about how competitive they can be. I'm convinced that there's technology in the labs at DJI that they could launch almost at a moment's notice to combat any threat that's out there. And if you think about the way they played this summer, they were going to release a product on the 18th. they held back. Now, maybe they held back for legitimate reasons because the production wasn't ready or they couldn't get enough of the product built to satisfy the demand they expect to have for it. But wouldn't it be cool if their marketing guys, who were geniuses, sat back and said, you know what? Let's see what that Parrot Anafi looks like. Let's see what Autel releases with the Evo. We know we've got a Mavic Pro 2 coming out that has the zoom lens. Maybe we release that first, hold back on the 1-inch until somebody starts talking about a 1-inch and release it later. But it looks like they're going to release both versions at the same time. And I can't stress this enough. They're going to dominate the market space. Now, they're going to be expensive drones, but I think enough people are looking for that higher quality lens that they're going to spend money for it. If they don't want to go that high, and I expect they're probably going to be, and I'm guessing here totally, maybe $1,895 for the zoom, maybe $2,000 for the first time for that Mavic Pro 2, maybe with a fly more, maybe not, but they're going to be expensive drones. You can get the Anafi for $700, you can get the Evo for about $1,000. So if you're not in that price range where you're going to have to spend the money for the DJI, those other drones are probably great options for you. But if you're in the space and you take droning or flying seriously and you're looking for a foldable drone with a 1-inch sensor, first company that comes out with that's going to own the market, and it looks by all indications that DJI is going to be that company. So we'll have to see how that goes. Now, one of the reasons I haven't talked about that still today, and I know it came out over the weekend and I kind of delayed this clip, is because I'm kind of in a kind of a touchy situation with DJI. It's a little bit ticklish for me because I like the company, and I've been lucky enough to get close to the company over the last couple of years by spending time with them at trade shows and getting to know a few of their people at the launch events. So I'm kind of in and I'm out. And the way DJI works is that when they're releasing a new project, they'll pick a group of people that they want to bring inside the tent. We call it the non-disclosure group. What that means is that if they share information with you, before they do that, you'll sign a non-disclosure, which means you can't tell anybody about it. Can't tell your wife, can't tell your mother, you can't talk about it. So once you're inside the tent, you get all the information you want, but you can't talk about it until they release the product. Now, I've been in those groups a couple of times, and I love being there, and I'm really happy that I get invited to launch events, but this time I wasn't invited into that group, and that's not that big a deal. I mean, they change the groups every time they release a new product, but since I'm outside the group, I can speculate on anything I want, but I don't want to damage the relationship I got with DJI, so I thought before I start talking about these leaked images that came out of this Argus slip with the catalog, why don't I just run it past them? I was really curious about what their thoughts were, and were they trying to contain it, or was it something that they were okay with people talking about? So I sent them an email and said, hey, you guys know about this Argus leak. I really want to talk about it on the channel, but I want to make sure I'm not going to get anybody really upset over there at DJI. Let me know what you think. And I was waiting for the response, and it came today. And to their credit, the response was, Rick, you're not part of the NDA group on this project. You can talk about anything you want, speculate all you want, read the information, put a clip together, knock yourself out. You can talk till you're out of breath about what you think's coming from this product. We're happy to have you talk about it. So that's a pretty cool thing from a company their size, because they could have said, look, don't talk about it. We're trying to keep this thing under wraps, but they didn't. So here I am talking about it. Now, having said that, I think this is going to be a monster release for these guys. And I'm assuming that there's other stuff we didn't see in that Argus catalog. And I thought before I let those guys go, let me ask them, do you have any conversation you want to have out in the public about your situation with this Argus leak? Do you have any comments at all about your feelings about what do we do about this Argus leak? And they sent me a quote that I'm going to read you now, and I've got it up on the screen. And basically what they said, and this is their response to it, was this pre-printed catalog was scheduled before we postponed our See the Bigger Picture event to ensure we can deliver high quality, cutting edge technology to our customers according to our standard of innovation. This early look, and that's key, this early look just hints at the many exciting features and capabilities DJI will announce at the proper time. We look forward to giving our fans an incredible drone experience as soon as we can. Stay tuned. Now, if this summer hasn't been tantalizing enough with all the leaks and speculation and stuff around the Mavic products, that quote is sort of like, I don't mind if you talk about it, but man, there's cool stuff we haven't told you yet, and it's not all in the leak. So as excited as I am for what I know already, knowing there's other stuff coming, maybe a display, in their controller, maybe there's who knows, there's a RoboMasters product coming, maybe the gimbal pops off and pops on that, maybe there's a stabilized handheld gimbal. There could be a lot of cool stuff coming, but again, I would never bet against this company because time and again, they've surprised me with these releases and they've knocked my stocks off. And I think they will with this one as well. So that's all I really had for today. Hit the link below, go visit those guys on Droning On, show them some support over there. If you have any questions about what I've covered, drop them in the comments below. I've got a couple ideas of what's coming in advance of what we've talked about, or I should say in addition to what we've talked about. So stay tuned to the channel. I've got a lot of cool stuff coming. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button down there. You don't want to miss some of the clips we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. So definitely stay tuned. And if this thing gets rescheduled soon, even if it gets rescheduled a ways off, we hope that we're still invited to it and we'll do live coverage from the event. And I'll give you all the details you need on the upcoming products that are being released by DJI. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, Happy flying.